It's been a long time since I've talked about PR, public relations, and working with journalists and all that. Today we have a special guest. Who are you?
I'm Ayelet Knopf. I am the CEO and founder of Slice Brand and also Dazzle. And I've been in the PR marketing industry for over 20 years now. So like very, very, very long time. And I've obviously known you for, I think, at least
18 of those 20
at
years.
least 18 of those 20 years, and have been fortunate enough to see you in action and admire everything that you do. And I've been fortunate enough to also lead some of the most interesting PR campaigns ever. So I've worked with very large big tech companies like Google, Microsoft, Intel, but then very small startups, the whole range, because I'm also originally Israeli, as you can probably tell by my name.
Yeah, that's what I did use in Tel Aviv, right?
Exactly. And so I would take you to Tel Aviv and show you all the hottest startups. And,
they're still hot, like aerobotics. You showed me, all sorts of weird companies, Waze and aerobotics, and all sorts of interesting companies doing all sorts of. You were one of the first to show me some of the AI companies that are coming out of Israel, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
early days. I mean, people forget those early days, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's part of the advantage of also working in tech PR, right? Because you're always in the know about the latest innovations, because they always come to you first, because they want to share the news with the world. So, and that's actually kind of like why I started Dazzle as well. So I founded Dazzle 2 years ago. And it came out of frustration that I had with PR these days, which essentially, I felt that the distribution channels we have today are just growing exponentially.
It's
Whether
insane. I mean, you got to keep up with Mastodon and Threads and Instagram and TikTok and Blue Sky and X. I mean, there's probably a bunch of them that I'm not even paying attention to.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many of them, and when you're in
podcasting now, I mean, it's like, wow, that was a music service. Now they're a content, service for creators, right?
There's a service for everything these days, right? And so exactly. How do you keep up? And as a PR person, you need to keep up. You need to keep up with all the latest news and trends, especially when you're representing clients. You got to know who their competitors are and which journalists you should be talking to. And especially as the media landscape in general is changing so quickly, because people are, there's so many layoffs, and then there's other journalists who are starting their own publications, and there's just so much movement that no human being could, basically monitor all of that. And so that's why,
I'm watching like 100,000 people on X all set up in lists, including PR people. I have a list of PR people, to watch you all.
Well, you're smart, because as I said, that's usually where the newest stuff comes from.
Yeah.
But just like keeping up with all that, keeping up with all the trends and the news is something that is impossible for any human being to do. And it made it very clear to me a few years ago that we need to have some sort of tool, artificial intelligence, to enable us to leverage so that we could keep up with the trends. Because
I've been telling everybody, I told you Nick Smoot yesterday, that AI is changing everything. It's changing PR. It's like, what? I didn't see that.
It's changing PR, it's changing legal, and I found it really frustrating in the last few years that it's been disrupting so many industries, and yet it felt like the PR industry has just remained stagnant. We're still using the same old tools. And I wanted to create a tool that enabled PR pros to create a media list, like a good media list, in a few minutes instead of hours or days or weeks. I've seen my team spend literally weeks on a media list for a good story. And it's it shouldn't be like that, right? In 2024, we have the technology. We should be able to very easily match between journalists and what they're interested in and stories. It shouldn't be that difficult, right? And
Yeah.
I also, another thing that was important for me to do is cultivate relationships between journalists and influencers and PR folks, because as you probably know, there's like a love-hate relationship between PR folks and journalists and the media. And one of the reasons for that is because all these archaic tools that are not able to keep up with the movements that are happening and are not able to keep up. Like what Robert Scoble likes today is different than what Robert Scoble liked 5-10 years ago. And if I'm getting wrong information about Robert Scoble and what interests you today, then I'm sending you the wrong pitches.
Yeah, that's true. And this world is changing. I mean, 3 years ago, AI was just a little thing that people didn't really pay attention to. Now every company has an AI. I mean, I've been talking to Walmart and Shopify and Airbnb and companies like that. They're all gassing up and making AI teams that are going to bring out feature after feature over the next decade, using AI. So it's a crazy world. Let's talk about the world of PR. I was sitting in a pool with Jim Forbes in Cancun, Mexico. He had an offsite for all of his best advertisers and stuff like that. And I was like tooling over to him in my swimsuit, and I was like, why do you do this? He goes, reciprocity. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, I want every one of these people, because they're all buying ads in my publications, to remember me when they decide not to pay my check next year, because they're not coming back. What are some of the things that you as a PR person did to get those relationships going? I mean, reciprocity is one I know we've joked about before. Oh, do you have pictures on a journalist? Oh, those are good.
Well, I think PR at the end of the day is all about cultivating relationships, right? It's about the human relationship. And that's why, again, like I think AI is good to a certain point. So AI can create a really good media list for me of who I should be pitching. But at the end of the day, I want to create a relationship with that journalist, and that means that I take that journalist to Israel, for example, and I show him or her all the latest technology. I don't just ask for things from that journalist. I actually give back. Commentary is also another great way to give back. So journalists are oftentimes they're writing articles about topics that are interesting for them to share with their readers, and you want to make sure that you're giving them comments or quotes or things from entrepreneurs that they would be interested to incorporate into their article. So it's really important to remember that at the end of the day, the journalist is not just someone that you're trying to get something out of, but it's actually a person that also has their own agenda, and I always say that it's not about you, it's about the journalist and what his readers are interested in, and it's about what they want to hear, not what you want to say. So it's very important to remember that always.
Richard Edelman, he has a thing called the Trust Bank. Edelman PR is one of the biggest PR firms in the world as well. And he sent the Sierra Club the day after my mom died. He sent the Sierra Club $500 in her name, and I asked some of his workers later, because I know a few of those people too. And they have a trust bank where they do donations like that, or send a little gift, or or take somebody to dinner or something like that, to create that reciprocity. Are you thinking that way? And are you trying to warn your PR person who's using your tool, oh, there's somebody's birthday, or somebody's mom just died, because they wrote about that on Facebook or Instagram or something like that, right? Or tell me a little bit about how you're approaching that kind of relationship building with this tool.
So yes, I agree. I also don't want to do it in a forced way, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm really trying to create more time for because as we said before, it takes a huge amount of time these days to monitor and keep up with all the latest trends. And so what most PR professionals are doing these days is just research. And once they're done with the research, they're just so exhausted at that point that they don't even want to deal with, how do I pitch this person specifically in a way that is interesting for them and create a relationship with this person. And so I think that what I would like to do, like my goal is to basically eliminate the amount of research work that goes into it. Let the AI do that, and let the PR person have enough time to then sit down and actually think, in a wise, intelligent way, like, what is the way that I want to create a relationship with this journalist? And that could be, also creating events, for example. Like, I think, for me, one of the main goals is, as I said, to foster and create better relationships between the media and PR teams. And I think one way to do that is through creating better tools for PR professionals to find what the media are specifically interested in, but also at the same time to create events, for example, that would be interesting for them to come together and understand more about each other and each other's roles. And we're also actually going to be, like, in the future, this is a scoop for now because we haven't launched this yet, but create some sort of tool for journalists, because journalists these days are getting anywhere between hundreds to thousands of emails. They just can't deal with that amount of pitches. I mean, I think I shared this with you, but there's like 6 PR professionals to every journalist, right? So the amount of PR pros, the number of PR pros is increasing, and the number of journalists is decreasing. And so, we really need to make sure that when we're pitching journalists, we're pitching them what interests them. But most importantly, I want to create some sort of like tool for the journalists that will filter the pitches for them. So it will be like a personalized inbox that will be anonymous. So in other words, the journalists don't need to necessarily share their contact details. It will be just like kind of like, if you've heard of Hero or Haro, which is kind of like that, which will enable journalists to then get these pitches which are specifically good for them. Now, so I'm thinking,
when journalists get together, I'm going to CES next month, and I'm already invited to a couple of journalist dinners, for autonomous car journalists and stuff like that. And when we get together, we always complaining. We get pitches for, like, I bet the autonomous car journalists are getting pitched on, chocolate or, or stupid things, right?
Exactly.
They're just on some fast list, and some PR person's just praying and spraying and praying that they get a story out of it, right?
Exactly. And that's what we're trying to eliminate with Dazzle, is that spray and pray. We want to make
a chocolate pitch is appreciated if you send the chocolate.
I'll keep that in mind. I
got pitched on to hit water, right? And that was actually an interesting entrepreneur, Kara Golden, who started this water company. The pitch was it's the #1 drink at Facebook and Google, right? That caught my attention. I was like, why is a water company pitching me? But actually the pitch was very, very strong, because I'm a tech person. I care about Google and Facebook, right? We're Meta now. And so that caught my eye, and she's the next. I still drink hit water today, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, again, it's important to personalize to a certain extent, but then on the other, it can become a little creepy at a certain point. Like if you're following a journalist and like exactly what type of water they like to do, and what time they like to go to sleep, and when they wake up, it can become a little creepy in today's age.
Your flower is on the right side of your desk. Oh, I think you know a little too much about me.
Exactly. So, but we're really trying to make sure that the journalists aren't being pitched 1,000 emails, but they're just getting the emails that are really important for them, about things that interest them. And I think at the end of the day, that's what the journalists appreciate the most.
I mean, for the big story, right? The thing that's going to make our career. Siri was launched on my show, for instance, and that mattered, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter today, but it did in the day, right? So we're all looking for that kind of thing, something that's going to be the most profitable acquisition of all time at Apple Computer, right? And you don't see those very often, but that's what I'm looking through my email. Like, is there a Siri in here?
Yeah. But I think it's more than that, right? Because I think that obviously journalists have different beats and everybody's interested in their specific niches. And so that's why it's really important to also keep it targeted. And maybe you're interested in like wearable tech, for example, like that's something specific to you that you're interested in. And so I want to make sure, even if you're not Robert Scoble, even if you're a blogger that has 1,000 readers, if those 1,000 readers are very targeted readers that are important for my, who will be my potential consumers, then I think it's very important to be able to hit those journalists as well. So I think targeting is a super important topic as well.
When we started working together, it was a completely different landscape. I mean, they're really, I've been on Twitter now for 17 years. So 18 years ago, there was no Twitter, right?
Yeah.
There was no Facebook. There was no YouTube. There was no LinkedIn. There was none of the social media, no TikTok, right? And now the average everyday person is becoming a journalist, right? I mean, they might not think of themselves like that, but you have 1,000 followers. That's more followers than I probably had back. Well, it's more followers than I had on X back then because there was no X, right?
Yeah.
I was the first one to get to followers on Twitter because I had a famous blog back then. That was a pretty rare. Being a tech influencer or being an influencer was very rare back then, right?
Right. Right.
You have hundreds of thousands of influencers, all influencing little micro communities. How does your tool help, a PR person keep up with that or figure out, okay, we're pitching a story on baseball right now. Who's the little communities that all talk about baseball on all these services, right? And who's the mover and shaker in that little community? Does your tool help with that?
Yeah. So basically, you can ask my tool, Daz. Daz is your AI co-pilot. You can basically ask him anything you like, right? You can ask him which journalists would be interested in this story. You can ask which podcasters would be interested. I can even show you a demo, by the way, if you're interested. So here, let's see. I
often break demos. Siri came to my house twice actually because the first time the demo didn't work, right? And Adam Shire was struggling.
Oh,
with
really?
it. Yeah, they had to come back a month later. That they killed their press tour because of that. Right? I was the first visit on the press tour, and so.
All right. So you see,
it's a new world, man. People don't do press tours anymore. Some do, but it's you're getting pitched a whole different way now, isn't it?
You see my screen, yeah?
Covered. Yes.
Yes. So
yeah, show us off. Show us some, let's say you have a company who's making a new kind of widget. I don't know,
Yeah, I'll show you like a health tech.
You're doing some PR for a new like 1x.tech or Figure or Tesla Optimus. How would you pitch a humanoid robot to people?
Okay. So you got a company that you want to pitch to the media, right? Let's say a health tech company, right? The first thing that you're going to start with is either creating a new media list or like selecting from an existing one. So let's say I'll start from one that I already have here.
Yeah.
And so you'll see on the right that you're already getting here a bunch of journalists that I added to this list, right? These are journalists that I think are worthy of pitching my health tech startup to.
Now, did you have to manually enter those, or they just figured that out from your data? Because since you ran a PR company for a long time, you have databases and dossiers. I mean, I know at Rackspace, a PR company did a dossier on me, and it was like a 1/4 inch thick, analyzing everything I did. So I know you all have databases like that of everybody.
Yeah. So Yes, but the coolest thing about Dazzle actually, right, is that there is no database. So it's a revolutionary idea. The idea is that it's real-time web searching. One of the key disadvantages of tools these days, PR tools these days, is that they are dependent on static old databases. They can't keep up, right?
Yeah.
That's where you're getting wrong information and wrong contact details. You're getting information that, John is still at TechCrunch, but really John hasn't been in TechCrunch for 3 years, right? But
Yeah.
the system can't keep up with all the movements that are happening in the media. So
Yeah.
the key differentiator of Dazzle is the fact that we don't depend on any static database. Everything is real-time web searches. So we're basically using a few different LLMs to come up with the responses that we're giving you. And so what you see here already is Daz AI, who's your AI co-pilot. He's already prompting you to different questions that you can ask about your media list, right? You can ask, for example, like, what's the latest buzz in healthcare innovation, or which reporter at the Washington Post is best to cover this
In the back
story.
end, your AI is watching like X and LinkedIn and Reddit and all the places that people publish stuff. I mean, tell me a little bit about the back end of this.
So
What's
we're
actually going on
focusing.
here? Give us the secret recipe.
Well, I'm not going to give the secret recipe because it's ours, but we focus on publication. So we focus on media. So it's not focused on social media. It's focused on podcasts, as I said, publications, not social, not TikTok or Facebook or X,
Yeah.
but like the Washington Post or TechCrunch.
The journalists are all on these places. They're all, they all have accounts on all these places. They're all writing about their story. Often they're pitching their story to the audience, right, that they have.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's
a lot of little signals.
There are a lot of signals. So here, for example, I mean, we can ask Daz any of these questions that you like. So we can even ask him to craft a press release for you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, with the content generation, that's something that others are doing as well. And I don't see that as, something that I think that needs to improve still. I think that, from what I
a little bit, it's still a little weak on writing, to make up some quote that doesn't fit or something like that, right?
I mean, I know a lot of journalists, for example, that they can tell if an AI has written something, right? And they'll oftentimes delete your press release or pitch email if a AI wrote it. And so that's actually one of the reasons why we don't focus on that, right? There's a lot of tools out there that focus on the content generation. We do not focus on that because I think that the most difficult part is actually coming up with the list of people you want to pitch. Once you have that, then the pitch should come from your heart. It should come from, you knowing or understanding what this journalist is interested in. It should not come from some AI that generated it. But we can still do that if you would like.
Yeah.
But here, for example, like if I want to know, like
ChatGPT and have an AI help you craft a PR pitch, right? There's a reason to do that, and you would bring it in and edit it and add your own human touch to it, so journalists can't tell too much AI was used in it, right? That's how I would do it. I mean, AI helps me write once in a while, right? It's a great editor, by the way. It'll tell you, oh, you have too many run-on sentences here or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I totally agree with you, but you'll be surprised at how people use AI. I mean, most of them, a lot of them, they'll just take and copy paste.
Yeah,
and there are tools these days that you can tell if basically it was written by AI, right?
Well, it has a certain style. It uses the word delve too many times.
Exactly.
Coldness to it, right? It's like you said, it's not. You can tell it's not a human. Particularly if I have a relationship with somebody, I can tell when you're using AI versus actually crafting me a really heartfelt message, right?
Exactly. So I don't recommend it. I mean, yes, I 100% believe that you should use AI tools. I created an AI tool. I believe in AI. You have to leverage AI in order to not only survive but thrive in today's age. But at the same time, you shouldn't just be copy pasting, right? You should be adding your personal touch and your, that goes back to those relationships, the
I,
cultivating of the relationships that we talked about
I
before.
teach my kids, if you're going to turn in a paper done with AI, you have to learn how to cheat properly. Number one, you have to check every fact, right? Because if you turn in some bullshit, your teacher's going to know you used AI to write the paper and you didn't even check the facts, right? And so you have to add your humans, some human sauce onto it, right? You have to make it human and make it interesting and change it from this cold, generalized approach of the AI to something that people are like, oh, that was actually human written, right?
Right. Otherwise, you're also not going to get the response that you're looking for from the journalist.
Class or right, or get thrown in the trash, put in spam, and then we won't hear from you anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I know certain journalists that have plugins that tell them if it was written by AI, and then they'll automatically
Now, see,
send that
that's
email to
bullshit
spam.
on its own because those plugins are not accurate. So you could, the Declaration of Independence I heard the other night on a show I'm doing is 49% written by AI. That's bullshit. These tools are not accurate. So, be careful by being so religious about it that you're using an AI tool like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it can give you a good indication, but teachers are making huge mistakes with students this way as well, right? These tools are not accurate and we should be very upfront about them.
I agree with you.
But anyways, we can tell as humans, you start a paragraph with the word delve, we know you're probably not handwriting that, right?
It's funny that you
that's a Paul Brown joke because AI sticks some words like delve into it much more frequently than humans do with human communication, right?
Yeah. I've actually heard some funny stories about AI getting bored because the tasks are not challenging enough. And so, and then they would get bored, like mid-work, they will basically stop working and not tell you what you want to hear.
We're starting to anthropomorphize these things a little bit too much. There is no soul. There's no consciousness here. It's a piece of melted sand right in your words. Right? Very human, can't it? It's a new world we're heading into. I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
It's a funny new world of storytelling. I mean, we haven't even started talking about all the ways podcasters now can create content with AI. I mean, I use the script to do my video editing. Like we could be video editing here. I read for 30 minutes to this thing, and I can just type, and it can speak like me, and it sounds like me, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And then there's music tools that'll do audio overlays automatically on top of a video and put music automatically. I mean, it's like, whoa, there's a whole bunch of new content. This is a new content area, right? How do we use AI to create content properly,
Yeah. Well, how do I know this is really you, Robert? Maybe this is it's your AI.
I'm like Max Headroom. If you see a glitch there, it's probably that's AI. Oh boy.
So while we were talking, I quickly went to chat to Daz and asked Daz to identify some journalists who would be interested in covering health techs or healthcare startups, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for journalists who I could pitch my health tech startup to. And you can see here that Daz went. So Daz now went all over the web and found these journalists. And you get their name, you get like a description of their article. You get obviously the outlet name. You can click on any one of them and automatically add them to your list.
Yeah.
So now I added.
Let you feedback because I can see where this is going. You're gonna write a pitch, target people. can you feed back in and say, oh, Scoville doesn't do that anymore? He wrote back and said, because sometimes your AI won't be able to figure out, oh, somebody just got fired today, right? That might not be on LinkedIn or X or on their info pages or anything yet, right? But they might write you and say, hey, I just got fired today. I'm moving over to this new publication, or I'm or I just changed beats. My boss said I'm no longer on the tech beat. I got to be on the politics beat or something like that, right?
Yeah. So that's the cool thing about this. So what's happening these days is that PR pros are using ancient tools like Excels and Google Sheets to build their media lists, right? So just like in the early 2000s, they're using the same tools as they were back then, and those sheets don't get updated. They're just kept in your computer, and you're keeping one sheet and I'm keeping one sheet, and we're not really syncing on the information, right? So if my sheet says Robert is no longer interested in in AI, let's say, I don't see that happening, but if my sheet says Robert is no longer interested in AI, you're not getting that information on your sheet, right? And that's ridiculous. What we're doing here is essentially, so this is your media list here. So this mimics your Google Sheet or your Excel. However, it's all a part of the process. So we built this specifically for you to have your whole PR workflow. So you can add automatically to the list. Like right now, what's happening is people are finding journalists that could be good for a story. They then go and copy paste that name of the journalist. They copy paste the outlet name. They look up the traffic. They're writing like comments. That all of this stuff is happening manually, right? They need to go to SimilarWeb to get their traffic. They need to get they need to like find the journalist location, so they go to X to find that, or LinkedIn. Here everything is automatic. So once you added the journalist, you already can see what matching articles they have, where they're located, their outlet name, obviously, their emails, who's pitching them, right? So I can decide, like, Abi is going to be pitching this journalist, and then Abi gets a notification that he's pitching the journalist, so you can collaborate with your team. You're getting the traffic. We're partnering up with SimilarWeb to get these traffic numbers, so you don't need to look it up on another platform. It's already right here. You can basically decide like what the status is. You can add comments, and all of this is collaborative. So if I'm writing a comment, you also see it if you're on my team, right? And so it's and this is disruptive, and it's crazy that in 2024 PR pros should still be using Excels, right? And
really, really cool. So you built all this crazy man.
So I come from the PR space. As you know, I'm not a programmer. I joined together.
Go to Claude and have it write some code for you.
I joined together with some very, very talented programmers and engineers and AI experts to be able to bring this to life, right? I told them, look, this is my frustration. And by the way, I think that any really good product comes out of a real need that you have in your industry. And I don't think that a tool like this could be built by someone who hasn't lived and breathed, the PR industry for so long as I have. I really think
I've watched you work and gotten, you give me tours of your office and I met your staff, and they're all doing a lot of this research. It's a lot of grunt work, right? A lot of thankless work.
Exactly. So this takes away the grunt work. They don't need to go and actually do the research. The AI does that for them. What they can then take that time, buy back that time, so that they can use that to speak with Robert, right? To create the relationship, actually, as opposed to doing all the background research.
Yeah, call somebody else. I have a bad reputation, as you know, which I appreciate you still supporting me even after all that.
No, we love you, Robert. We
Yeah.
love you. We always love you.
But that's a good point too. Does it show reputations of each person? Because here's an example that isn't so salacious. There's a journalist at Electric who writes about the electric vehicle industry, right? And he used to be really pro Tesla, and now he's really anti-Tesla. Well, if I'm a Tesla PR person, I got to know that. Obviously, they know that because they watch that industry so closely. But they need to know that before they're going to pitch Optimus to somebody, right? Because they don't want to pitch Optimus to somebody who hates Tesla. And that's not a good way to build a story. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe you go after people who hate you, go straight into the lion's den, let's go. But generally, you want to pitch
that's
to people
definitely,
who
that's definitely one way of doing it. But yes, 100%. You get a profile. You can get a profile on every journalist, and it will tell you what that journalist's interests are. That's why it's so important that it's real time, right? And that it's not some old bio, because in the old bio, I would get information which is wrong, which would tell me that that journalist is pro Tesla. But since that journalist has become anti-Tesla, I want to know that, right? And so, yes, that's exactly what we do. It's real time. Now, I'll show you a really, really, really cool feature now, which is kind of like our killer feature. So, as I told you, right now, PR teams are spending like weeks on building these media lists. And so here, it's very quick to get you the list. But then on top of that, if you want to expand your list, you just click on recommendations here. And now it will give you a whole list of hundreds of more journalists that are specific to your list. So it looks at who you already added to your list. And then based on that, it gives you additional recommendations. Yeah. And this is our own unique tech that we created, and nobody else has this. So you can, and from here, you can expand your list, you can add more people. And the more people I have, the smarter Daz gets, because it knows more and more about the type of journalist that I'm looking for.
Yeah. By the way, I always say great companies are not launched, they're built, right? And
100%.
You're pitching, you're not going to pitch them just once. You're going to pitch them with this product and then this product and then this product, and you're building a relationship with that journalist and understanding them. Does it track the emails that come back from that journalist, or can I write to it and say, hey, this journalist did a really great story on this, and really, in other words, close the loop and start making this better for your individual PR person over time, and that it gets better and better because it understands your interactions with all the journalists and all the people that you need to work with.
Yeah. So right now, everything is in the comments. So you can put in the comments here. You have to remember, we just launched this like a week and a half ago. So it's fresh from the oven. And as you said, I'm not about the launch. I'm about the building, right? I'm building this to help my colleagues, to help my industry do a better job and be able to survive in an age where there's just like information overload. But moving forward, definitely, we're looking to add more features. As I said, we're looking to add the other side of things. So to enable journalists to also get pitches that are right for them in their inboxes. So right now, yeah.
A big part of PR is going back to the client and telling the client how it worked, right? Here's how many reviews we got. Here's all the publications that wrote about us, right? I give him a nice bundled up report. Does your tool help on the reporting side of things to help the PR person report to their bosses or their clients, how things are going on a regular basis, or at the end of the month, or at the end of a big push for launching a product or something like that?
Yeah. So again, right now we're really focused on the media list, because that in the beginning, that's the thing that takes the most time. Moving forward, we will add monitoring. We will add all of these different features. Right now, we don't do the monitoring. However, you can share this list, oftentimes a client will say, oh, please share the list of media that you're reaching out to. And so here you can just copy paste this and automatically the client gets this list. So we're working on all these features, but right now, what's really most important to me is to get feedback. And that's what we've been doing also in the last 2 years since we started working on this, is getting feedback from the community on what they like, what they don't like, because I think it's most important to understand from folks what what tools could be most useful to them.
Yeah.
And I think and we were talking about this before we started recording, I think that podcasts are a powerful tool these days, and increasingly so. This election, I think, was very much influenced by podcasts, and I know that a lot of people think that
and all that crew, people who cover politics, it's certainly played a huge role. Yeah.
exactly, like Joe Rogan, and
on different lines,
a lot of people are asking, why didn't Kamala go on Joe Rogan? I know he invited her a million times and she didn't go, and she probably should have, in retrospect. But
is he getting to the place where it would tell somebody like Kamala, you should go on Joe Rogan? Like you're screwing up by not going on this guy's show,
yeah. Look, I mean, I think that podcasts are going to probably become kind of the number one way to spread your news, to share your story with the world. And we are leaning more towards podcast research and search and finding the best podcasters for your story as well. So that's another direction that we're really heavily going into. And there's a lot of information there. There's so many podcasts that are being launched daily. And so, that's, again, it's information overload, and somebody needs to do that. And
Ferris versus Joe Rogan, or versus, the All In podcast, whatever, right?
Exactly.
They all have
exactly.
different audiences. They all have a different style. They all have a different content suite that they talk about, right? And your tool is going to track all that and show you, hey, Joe Rogan, this is the kind of thing he does, what he talks about. Tim Ferriss, this is the kind of thing he talks about. This is his audience size, that kind of thing. That's cool.
Exactly.
That's cool. It's a wild world. I do watch a lot of PR people. I watch a lot of journalists. I'm still friends with some of them. I'm friends with a lot of them, actually. But, I'm certainly, you talk about podcasts over on Twitter. We have these audio spaces, and the Tesla community has has several spaces run by different people there. So if you want to pitch something to the Tesla community, you have to know that. You have to know who's running those groups, who's actually influential, what their audience size is, what the likelihood they are to get through the algorithms and get audience, right? And what kinds of tinges they have, because you, as a storyteller, you want to make sure you bring the right tinge to the story, right? You want, if you want Omar to talk about you, he'll talk about autonomy and AI in a different way than some of the other people, right? Sawyer, for instance, who is a little bit more business and a little bit more technical, right? Is your tool going to really study these people like that and really show, hey, go, if you're bringing a technical thing or a financial result, we should go to Sawyer because he's taken much more seriously about financials. And if you want to just do maybe a product launch or a lifestyle launch or something where you want to bring a product that gets people to just see it and know about it, Omar's probably a better guy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He runs whole Mars catalog, so right.
Exactly. You would get all the information you need about the journalists, the podcasters, what their interests are, what you should be talking to them about, which is, again, I mean, it's takes such an enormous amount of time these days for PR pros to do. And having
I've been on 1,000 Twitter spaces, audio spaces with these people, and I've built relationships that way. I don't see any PR people there, right? So you're coming in cold to the community and don't understand how it works. And that's why your team had to do so much research to figure out who are these journalists and what do they talk about? Who do they influence? What kind of audience do they have? How big is their audience? How engaged is their audience? Stuff like that.
Exactly. So imagine you had a tool that just gave you all that within seconds, right? Instead
Yeah.
of you having to go to the web and do it
Right.
yourself. So
I need the other part of this tool for the journalists to filter out all these new pitches. Now all of a sudden there's a whole PR team that doesn't do research. That's all done by the AI. They're all pitching me all the time. It's a crazy world. Anything else that we should know about technically in this tool, or that you want to show off to the PR? Talk to the PR people. I'm not going to buy your tool because I'm not a PR person. I might use the journalist side of this, but talk to the PR people. What else do they need to know?
Yeah. So, I think bottom line, we need tools these days to enable us to handle the amount of information that we need to deal with. And that's exactly what Dazzle does. It enables you to have it think of it as your detective, your AI detective that gives you all the information you need about all the journalists, all the podcasters. So you don't need to do that. You can then spend that time doing whatever else you want to be doing. In addition to that, a lot of the PR pros that I've spoken to have complained about the tools today being super expensive. They don't have the money. Like a lot of these PR teams are not, Edelman is probably the hugest PR firm there is today. Not everybody's an Edelman, right?
Yeah.
There are so many solopreneurs and in-house PR teams that don't have the budget to go and spend thousands of dollars every year, which is what's happening now. They need to share accounts. So you see a few people like sharing an account together in order to be able to have the same access to data that the big PR firms have. And so this tool is we made it super accessible, super affordable. If you get the yearly subscription, it's only 100. Well, we have a freemium subscription also, which you can use, but it's limited. But if you want the unlimited, it's $175 a month, which is absolutely nothing when you compare that with the other tools that are out there that are a few thousand yearly. Plus the other ones are yearly, right? So you don't have that monthly flexible subscription that we do. And we're looking to really disrupt the market and enable PR people to have a life. I think one of the main things that people say about PR people is they don't have a life, right? We really need to have tools that help us have a life, because otherwise we're just totally consumed all day and all night trying to keep up with all the trends that are happening in the news and all that. So this is a way for you to basically deal and not only survive but thrive.
Yeah, I'm just asking Grok. These AI tools really are pretty good at analyzing somebody. I just asked Grok over on X, tell me all points of view on Robert Scoble, please. How good is his reputation? And it lays out the good, the bad, and the ugly in a long report, right? And it's quite accurate because Grok knows me very well because I've been on X for 17 years. Tell me a little bit, just to end up, how deep can this go on somebody? Can it really tell me like everything about this person?
Yes, 100%. Plus, again, like if you go to ChatGPT, and a lot of PR folks, they go to ChatGPT to ask questions. It's usually trained on old data, right? So oftentimes there are hallucinations.
Because Grok's up to date, because Grok, but not everybody's on X, right? So if you're trying to research somebody, a blogger or somebody who's working at a journalism outlet, Time Magazine or something, they might not be on X. They might not have very much data for these things to really understand it like that does me. ChatGPT is quite accurate with me as well, because I get I've written a blog for 30 years now, right? So it has a lot of my data. It knows everything about me. It's really crazy.
Yes, but also at the same time, again, I think people's beats change, right? And it's not always updated. as updated as it should be. So with us, we're basically using a few different LLMs in order to make sure that we are as updated as possible. So it's really the most recent articles that you'll see and the most recent information. And in addition to that, you're also it's built specifically for PR teams, which means for the PR workflow. So you can, once you find that journalist or podcaster you want to add to your list, you can immediately add them to your list. And already they'll be on the list with all the information that you need, the traffic, their email, their, where they live, all that information is automatically already on your list.
15 minutes ago, they published an article in Time Magazine or something, or does it show like their latest publications or their latest writings or their latest books, or that they're giving a talk at South by Southwest next year? Because that's going to be important too, right? Knowing that.
Yeah, so it's as updated as like between about an hour, right? So if you wrote an article about 2 hours ago, that will show up for sure.
So this is good for crisis management too, and other things where you need to get a story out fast. You can figure out who to talk to real quick.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome. Or who is writing about the story already and interested in it, right? We need to get this news out to these 15 people because they're already writing about this story.
Yes.
It's a new world. It's a new world. Yeah. Well, exciting.
Yes. And very exciting. And
we should cover some of our history. We've been, at South by together and Israel together. I mean, you've brought me many, many companies over the years, and I really, really do appreciate it. That's sort of why I'm doing this. You got a lot of reciprocity on me.
Yes, and and also I think that the work that you do is, I mean, again, you have brought so many companies to light that nobody else would know about if not for you. And I think people often forget that. So thank you also, Robert, for doing that. And it's about give and take, right? And yeah, I mean, I think
I pissed off a few PR people. I pissed off Katie Cotton, who was Steve Jobs' PR person, because I was live streaming and when she didn't invite me to anything after that. So,
but you're trying to get the scoop, right? You were trying to get
you push the boundaries, and sometimes you push too far.
Sometimes you need to push the boundaries in order to get your story.
Right? If you're a new journalist or somebody who wants to do influencing or building a media outlet, you got to take care of the PR people because they will fuck you hard.
That's true. So, but I think my tool will make PR people more happier in general, which will be good for everybody else as well.
Yeah, you're less likely to piss off your PR people. No, if you're a new journalist, I have my thing and it's going. But if you're starting out a media company, that having good relationships with the PR people means you have a constant flow of stories to write, right? And that's the lifeblood of a media company. If you don't have good stories and good companies and good things to talk about, the readers are going to go somewhere else, or the podcast viewers are going to go somewhere else, right? So we appreciate you too. We'll try not to off all the PR people. That's why I keep a list of them. It's like, gotta watch the PR people because they're really important to this if you're going to build a media company. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, and that's really important what you said now. Also, I mean, so one of the things that I do is I lecture around the world about how to pitch the media, and it's not about the fact that you exist as a company, right? It's about what you do and how is it different than what other people are doing, and how are you making a difference, right? And it's important. Oftentimes, with clients as well, you need to educate them and explain to them what is the story, what isn't the story. The fact that you just launched, okay, that's great that you launched, but what are you doing that is disrupting the industry, that's changing it? What are you doing differently? You really, and one of the things that I want to do also in the future is kind of build workshops and explain to people and share a little bit more about the type of stories that they should be pitching the media, which is a whole other sector on its own.
And you're good at it. Where do we learn more about your tool and your company?
Yeah, so if you want to check out Dazzle, I'll be more than happy also to show you a demo. Go to dazzleai.com and you can download our free version, subscribe to our freemium version. And I'm also on X, Ayelet Knopf. I'm on Facebook, Ayelet. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere, right? So you can really find me everywhere. But if you want to check out Dazzle, which I hope you will, go to dazzleai.com.
Very cool. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert, for having me.